Good evening and a very warm welcome to First Issues. We are routinely reminded that the natural resource that the health of our economy currently rests on, being diamonds, is a finite one that may be depleted during my generation's lifetime, and that our only hope to progress well into the future is to diversify our economy. The struggle is that many of us have been raised to be academics or employees, and the switch to an entrepreneurial mindset seems difficult, if not impossible. Despite these warnings, increasing levels of job insecurity and persistently high levels of unemployment, most Botswana still aspire to being part of the few who land a decent job rather than risk venturing out to actualize an idea into a viable business and place of employment. To help those who are still afraid of opening up their minds to becoming job creators as opposed to being job seekers, we here at First Issues periodically present the personal stories of entrepreneurs to help our viewers gain a practical understanding of what this life path entails. This evening, we hear from a young man who has successfully made that transition and is now not only providing a product and service to the country and employment for its citizens, but is also vested in upskilling and training others to grow the industry. Moses Tlo is a 38-year-old man who spent most of his formative years in Muchudi. The second of 5 children in total, he only left the village after Form 3 to complete his studies in Silibe Pigwe. For tertiary, he went even further, to the city of Johannesburg, South Africa, to study water engineering. It is there where, while looking for a side job to supplement his allowance, he was introduced to the business of Gamazene wall coating production and application. His employer at the factory became so enamored with him that he literally took him in and made him his right-hand man. One could ask, what did this employer see in Moses that he would single him out, train him, elevate him to a managerial position, and even house him as young and inexperienced as he was?
Most of all, he loved my energy because that's what he used to say. Yeah, because I'm a hard worker, so he saw that from the first day. Because the first day when I went there, when I knocked there looking for a job, he asked me what kind of a job I'm looking for, and I told him for anything. Then he told me to go and wash his car. Then I went to wash his car. Then after finishing washing the car, I went back to ask him if he can give me the car keys to wipe inside. Then he told me that maybe I want to steal his car, because this is Joburg. You just walked in, now you're trying to take my car. And I told him, no, I'm not the thief. I was just looking through the window and I saw some dust. Then the following morning, he called me to the office and asked me again why I wanted the keys. But I asked innocently because I was from Botswana, so I didn't know much about stealing cars and all that. So I told him that, no, it's just that I wanted to clean. Then he told me that he always tell guys to wash his car, but they never go an extra mile to do inside. Wow. Then that's when he started now bringing me closer to him. Then it started like that. Wow. Then in the second month, I was already the supervisor for the guys in the workshop. Yeah, after 6 months, I was already manufacturing. Then he taught me his formulas because I think I came at the right time when the other guy who had been mixing wanted to quit the job. So he taught me all the formulas and I stayed there, and he took me from school, housed me to protect his formulas also.
What could possibly make a young student want a part-time job bad enough to eagerly throw himself into even washing cars? He was on government scholarship, afforded a monthly allowance and tuition fees like many others. But why would he have that extra hunger to do more?
When I got there, I saw, that there's on spare time, people do a lot of things. And from my background also, I was eager. When I got there, I saw a lot of opportunities to make money. So I was just about doing something, getting there fast. Other guys came from ko bane ba na le madi a kere ko malapeng ba romelwa extra cash what so na ne ke sa romelwe extra cash, so I had to make my own money to put together with that to survive, and I didn't want to end up on the street.
It is difficult for most people to leave their jobs and pursue their own ventures, even those working in terrible conditions. Yet Moses chose to leave after 8 years of doing a job he loved, living in a big house, driving a nice car. He says he did so after learning that not all was as it appeared.
For that 8 years, I didn't realize that I was just working like a son without salary, without anything. I was living la vida, but there was no salary, nothing, and I didn't realize. I was just enjoying the work, doing the work, and there was nothing for me. I had it. When we moved to Botswana now to open, he gave me a big car, a big house, this one, and he told me they were mine, only to realize they are under company name. When I told him to put it on my name, that's where the problem started. Then I realized that I was just there like a tool, but no salary, nothing. So that's when I decided, but I'm making so much for him, I can do it for myself. But he contained me for a very long time without me realizing that I'm contained. Yeah, that's how Lescolo is without even realizing what I'm actually leaving school, but I don't regret it because, yeah, I'm doing what I like and what I know how to do.
By now you're probably wondering what this Gamazene wall coating we keep referring to is. Moses describes a modern, versatile, no-maintenance product that, in addition to coming in a variety of customizable shades and textures, never loses its color and therefore never needs reapplication, as you can allude from these various projects he has now done.
Gamazene is a wall coating material that lasts forever. It's got like no maintenance. Once you apply, it's forever. You don't need to apply again. When the rain comes, it washes your house and your house becomes new again. When the sun hits, it starts shining. Yeah, so we have like marble. Marble always comes in different colors, and this is pure granite. Granite comes, it's always white and shiny. So what we do, we crush the marble and the granite, mix it together, make a color and blow it on the wall, and it stays like that forever. And then these materials, the chemicals that we use to bond them, when they dry, they don't lose elasticity. That means when the wall expands and contracts, it will go with it. So you will never see a crack on the Gamazene. And the other thing is, as these stones are sitting like this, they allow the wall to breathe. So it will never peel off. Once it's applied, it will stay like that forever. In this case here, we've mixed granite and the black marble, and we put more of black. So when we do this thing, you actually make your own color. You'll be telling me, I'll play around with the stones to say, this is my black and white. And then you say, reduce the black, maybe add whatever color you want. Here is red and white. This is the gray and white. This is burgundy and white. This is the Kalahari, but I threw in some glitters. If you want gold, I throw in gold. If you want silver, I throw in silver. But if you don't like the silver or the gold, I crush glass. Then I just crush glass. I just crush this glass, then throw it in there, and it will give it a shine also. It will give it a glitter, and it will act like a mirror also. So if a black stone is sitting next to the glass and the white stone on the other side, that glass will act like a mirror. So it will give a feeling of another color. So you will never get used to the color of your house. It will keep changing depending on the direction of the sun. We give guarantee that it will never peel off, because the chemical that we use here, if you put it next to the cement sucks it in. So this material, once you apply it, it's sucked in the plaster. So to take it out, you have to chop the plaster. You'll never take it out. Yeah. And then we have another material here, which is striato. This one here, we use silica sand. Silica sand is that sand they use at the mines for cooking ores, because it takes high temperatures. So we buy that as an off material, put color to it, then we apply it on the wall. And we know that because the sand takes high temperature, even it will never reach about 3000 degrees, which means the color, once it's like this, it will stay like that forever.
So no need to repaint your
No
house
need
after
to
a few
repaint.
years.
That color will stay like that forever. Yeah, and the color is inside the sand. We put the color when the sand is still dry. Then we put chemical and apply. So that color, it's inside the sand, not on top.
How do you get the different textures? I see some are linear. You can choose which type you want.
You choose which pattern you want. What we do, the trick is we mix this sand, then we throw in some stones in there. So when we apply, it depends on the movement. If you make a circular movement as you are plastering it, you will get this rustic look. But if you pull it down straight, you get the lines going down straight.
Once a customer has selected their permanent color of choice as well as texture, we can move to the second stage, which is mixing a bigger batch for final application onto the house. And of course, we have our reference sample to make sure that the color we decided on is the one that goes onto the house. And because Moses is a local manufacturer, I am able to make last-minute changes in tone and color right here on site before we head to application. Now for the mixing. So after consultation, picking my permanent color, picking a texture, and making sure that the mix is perfect on site, we go to the final stage, which is application.
Rather people working for themselves, because even the guys I work with, they are all working for themselves. Nobody's working for salary. We pay for what you've done per square meter. So that way, that they are working for them. So I encourage them to work for themselves. I train them. After training them, I don't employ them. I just subcontract them so that I don't even have to follow them again as they are working. They supervise themselves and they push themselves because they are going to be paid for what they have done.
Welcome back to the program. There are a number of cautionary messages that go out during the festive season. Warnings about financial scams and robberies that take place as opportunistic criminals try to capitalize on the excitement, full pockets, prolonged absences from our homes, as well as mass purchases. Despite the fact that medical services are often limited during this time, as even members of the health sector take leave, excessive alcohol intake, binge eating by people with chronic illnesses, and other indulgences land several people in hospital and incur unplanned medical expenses for both individuals and the state going into the new year. Should this not be a time for merriment and not pain? Our guest, Professor Kiran Bhagat, advises us on how to best have a positive and healthy festive season, beginning with the right way to consume alcohol if we are so inclined.
I think the most important thing to begin with are those that are taking alcohol and are actually already on medication of some sort. That's the most important message we want to send out there. And it may be simple medication, it may be a single blood pressure tablet, it may be an allergy tablet, it may be an asthma inhaler, or it may be complicated things like diabetic tablets, injections. You always have to be cautious with alcohol. Remember that alcohol as it's broken down, is toxic to the body. So the body takes the alcohol straight to the liver to break down the alcohol into its waste products. Now, many drugs that patients out there are taking are also broken down in the liver. So the most important thing to ask the doctor or your health practitioner when you take alcohol and you are on some sort of long-term medication, whatever the medication is to ask, is the alcohol going to compete with my medication? Because what happens is that because alcohol is often more toxic than some of the medication you may be taking, the alcohol will be broken down first and the medicine will linger in your body longer. So patients may be taking blood thinning tablets, for example, so the blood thins even more and they can bleed. Patients may be taking antibiotics and the antibiotics may linger more and cause side effects. So you have to be cautious when taking alcohol. The second thing to say is alcohol as we all know, goes through phases. Those that take alcohol know they go through a phase of initially being social, and then they become raucous, and then they become mindless, if you like, for want of a bit of a word, and then eventually some people become violent. So it's very important to remember when you're taking this alcohol that some of the drugs that you may be taking may heighten some of these effects. They may be on antidepressants, they may be on certain blood pressure medication which cause side effects that make them more drowsy. So be careful when you take alcohol with medication and you're driving, because it impairs the system. In terms of alcohol, again, the alcohol that you take differs in terms of its alcohol content. And those that are not used to taking, for example, spirits, that normally take beers, and at the festive season are offered, you know, a gin and tonic or a whiskey or something else, we often find that beer drinkers tend to drink spirits the way they drink beers. And they down many more spirits than they should, and as a result they get intoxicated fast because they're used to downing, you know, a few more cans of beer. And it's not the same with the alcohol content of some of these others. So be careful when you're taking these alcohol preparations. They call them shooters, they call them liqueurs, they call them all sorts of things. And you've got to be very mindful when you take these if you've not taken them before. One also has to remember for the youth out there that when you are younger, particularly between the ages of 18 and 25, the liver is still in the process of growing. The liver is still in the process of maturing. So if you overload that liver with heavy alcohol, particularly on a festive season where you're binging, you may put that liver under an enormous amount of strain than more adult populations. When it comes to alcohol, it's also important to remember that everybody seeks a cure for a hangover. And a hangover basically is dehydration. It's where the alcohol, which is what we call a diuretic, makes you pee more. So you're going to empty your bladder more frequently. And people have tried all sorts of things to reduce the effect of the hangover so they can drink more. Don't do that. There is no cure for a hangover. You know, these raw eggs and coffee and all these things, all they do is simply rehydrate you. The coffee works simply because it wakens you up because of the caffeine. So it makes your brain awaken, but it doesn't do anything in terms of your brain function. And in terms of the coffee making you feel better, it's just a liquid that you're replenishing. The best cure for a hangover is not to drink too much.
Even the most health conscious of us throw caution in the air when it comes to food during this season, as every party, road trip and family gathering is accompanied by decadent food. How can we ensure that we regulate our weight and thus our overall health over the next few weeks?
It's a very important issue, and the reason why we talk about weight and Christmas or the festive season is that people have been working for months and months and months, either going to the gym or exercising or walking or watching what they're eating, and they suddenly think, what the heck? And they go to town, they'll think, oh, it's only for the festive season. And most of us know that particularly as you're getting older, the body metabolism slows down. So if you've worked very hard in the gym, maintained your weight, stayed off your carbohydrates, particularly your processed carbohydrates, your bread, your palici, or your pasta, your spaghetti, and those weight-gaining foods, and you suddenly binge with your pies and your cakes and your breads and your big pounds of palici on your plate, you will suffer the consequences because all of that is sugar that you're storing away. And particularly as you become an adult, you're not growing anymore. So the body doesn't need those sugars, it doesn't need that protein, it doesn't need that fat. So it secretes it. In other words, it puts it away into your tummy. And we all know that everybody's abdominal waist, we've talked about it before, the larger your waist, the more the risk of diabetes. So in terms of maintaining your weight, focus on the fun and not the food. You know, people tend to think, and food is always tastes good if somebody else is paying for it. So when you're going out to dinner, when you're going to a restaurant, when you're going to somebody else's place for a supper or a breakfast, make sure that your eyes are not bigger than your stomach. Because often you see the food on the table and you think, I'll have all of this. And you don't need it. And often because the three things that tempt humans are salt, sugar, and fat. And all the things that are around festive season contain salt, sugar, and fat. And the body craves it. Everybody knows the smell of fresh chips with vinegar, and it's sort of, you know, that enticing smell, freshly baked bread. So be careful with all these things. Be careful when you're going to the supermarket. This is the time where the food industry, the supermarkets are all trying to entice you down those shopping aisles. Remember what we said before, the healthiest food is on the outside of the supermarket. Your vegetables and your fruits and the things that don't need to be advertised. The things that are in the middle of the supermarket that are in boxes, your cakes, your biscuits, your Christmas fudge cake, all those things are the ones that are poisonous for you. So be mindful of what you put on your plate.
Professor Kiran Bhagat says those living with chronic illnesses need to be more careful than others when it comes to such overindulgences. What then should the increasing number of Botswana living with diabetes in particular keep in mind among the festivities?
A really important subject. There are many diabetics out there, and Botswana's population of diabetes is growing simply because we're eating the wrong foods. And it's really important. If you're diabetic and you are on medication, be it tablets or injections, be very careful with the foods that you eat over Christmas, because many of these can upset your entire profile of sugar and send you into a tailspin. Many times patients are admitted in a crisis because they've either overdone the alcohol, which contains a lot of sugar, or they've overdone the starch, which contains a lot of sugar, and it completely sets their system into a nosedive, and they are often admitted with very high sugars, dehydrated, and having to have intravenous drips of rehydration, insulin injected, etc. So be very, very careful what you do. In addition, because of the late nights that people go out to, if they're taking their tablets in the evening and then they're going out later and binging, particularly at a late night dinner or a Christmas party, be very careful what you're eating, because all those foods, particularly during the festive season, are high in fat and high in sugar, and often are forbidden in terms of diabetics out there. I also want to make a note there, particularly during the holiday season with diabetics, there's a lot of fruit juice out there. You know, these fruit cocktails, etc., and they'll be tempted to drink them. Remember, even if the carton says 100% fruit, it's 100% fruit sugar, and it's very concentrated. Make sure if you're taking fruit juice and you're diabetic, make sure you dilute it heavily.
You have heard all the good doctor has to say, and now have all the tools you need to ensure that, as we say in Setswana, monate wa gago ga o fele ka busula. Until next week and another issue of interest, I, Nametso Samakula, the team behind First Issues, and our sponsors, First National Bank, wish you a good night and pleasant viewing.